hit record. Are we recording? I think we are. All right. I can never tell on this. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Unlike me incorrectly saying last episode was episode 20, which it was not. This is actually episode 20. And I still messed up the intro when I was doing the pre-recording intro. Somehow I said episode 20, even though it was episode 19. Even though during the episode we said episode 19.
You said 19, I remember.
Yeah. But this is episode 20. Like, we have somehow, some way, some shape or form, Eddie and I haven't killed each other. We managed to do 20 episodes so far, which is freaking incredible, right? We're like starting to get gray hair. We're starting to get old. Like, how the hell has this happened? But exciting guest today. Actually, this is going to be a very fun episode. And I think we're going to get to a lot of high-level discussion here about emails, email signatures, and building a company on nature. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We have Mr. Dan Hanrahan. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. Did I say it right? It's good?
No, you nailed it. Thanks for having me, guys.
It took me Podcast Nation like about 50 tries right before we started recording to make sure I pronounced it right. So it's first off, Dan, one hell of a name. So let's start you there. It's like,
thank you.
It rolls off the tongue. You could be a superhero, man.
It does. It does. I wasn't very good at spelling as a young guy, so my parents put as few, letters in my name as possible.
Well, listen, man, we're pumped to have you. So before we jump in, I just want to ask, for those who have no idea, they've never heard of Sigster before, they have no idea who you are, could you give like the 30,000 foot overview of kind of who you are, what you do, and what you...
Yeah, sure. So again, my name is Dan Hanrahan. I'm the founder of a business called Sigster. We're out of Indianapolis. And at a very, very high level, we essentially unlock employee email as an owned marketing channel. What that really means is we give marketers the keys to the employee email signature to turn it into a call to action that's really important to the business. And so we've been at it about a year and a half now, and I'd dig in with you guys and share more about that.
Is this a Chrome extension, or is it like a Mac Mail plugin or something? Or are you talking about like a completely separate platform?
No, so think Gmail, Outlook, right? The two primary systems that people use to send email from work, right? Mm-hmm. So we integrate with Gmail, and we integrate with Outlook in a lot of different ways. But happy to dig into the technology more. But it's something you can launch in just a couple minutes.
Cool.
So what I want to know is, when did you make the life decision? I'm going to put all my time, energy, and resources into email signatures. Like,
right.
Because not a lot of people will do that.
Say it like that. It does sound kind of ridiculous when you say it like that, but I
really, because it's awesome. But I really want to know, like,
my VP of sales told somebody that he was passionate about email signatures, and I kind of looked at him and I just started laughing. At its surface level, it is a little wild, but it is really one of those businesses. Somebody called it a duh business, right? I mean, it's so easy to understand, and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, why isn't that easier? So it really is born out of my experience. So I was with a company called iGo Digital. We had 60 employees, and we emailed all 60 of our employees to ask them to copy and paste something into their email signature. Companies, right, with 10, if you worked at a large business, you've gotten an email sent to the entire organization that says, hey, follow these 10 steps and update your signature, or copy and paste something into your email signature, right? We've all seen that experience, and it's a mess, and it's hard to control. And we looked hard for a solution to just make it simple, right? A SaaS solution to control signatures, measure results like any other digital channel. And at the end of the day, we couldn't find it, so we just went and built the thing.
Nice, very nice. Those are the best business models, right? The ones that are duh ideas.
You got it.
So why in the world did this not already exist then? If it's a duh idea, right. Why was no one in this marketplace?
Yeah, and everything on its surface, you guys obviously know technology, startups, entrepreneurship, and everything on its surface seems like it would be really easy, right? And then as you get into it, there's a lot of nuances to it, and there are a few companies, not in the U.S. that tackle the challenge and typically offer solutions either to IT or for the SMB. And so we've really built Sigster with a focus on the enterprise and serving the marketer of the company. And so
Great question in the comments is, do you have any competitors that you are aware of?
Yeah, we sure do. to name a couple of those guys, right? There's the status quo, right? Which we all know, which is do nothing and continue to email all of our employees. Right. And there's some other companies, right? I think there's one out of Australia called Black Pearl Mail, which Eddie, I love the hat, right? I'm not sure you don't work at Black Pearl Mail. I'm just kidding. What hat? I don't see a hat. And another, there's a couple of other competitors out there that, again, sort of serving the SMB and sometimes focused on the IT organization.
So you decide I'm gonna go full into this. So what was your team like? Your founding team, like what was your role early on? What was your founding team, right? And like what was the first days of starting?
Yeah, so it was out of the gates. It was a little interesting. So it was just me. By design, I am not a developer, which I have a ton of respect for those folks. And so I worked with a friend to build an MVP after talking to a ton of marketers and saying, hey, should we go solve this problem? And we just built the absolute bare minimum to get it out to market and get some feedback, gain some traction. And then my first hire was my VP of engineering, which I had worked with in the old days at iGo Digital. So that's the skill set that I valued most. And so we brought in a leader there and he's built an awesome team around him. Since then, we've also hired, so for us, it's sort of three things, right? It's, you got to sell the product, you got to build the product, and you got to support your customer. And so we hired the leaders of those three groups, which are client success, sales, and engineering right out of the gates. And then sort of filled in around them. So today we're 22 employees and, really a year outside of our public launch of the product.
So did you guys go about raising money early on, build a product first, decide to raise money, or you like bootstrap and like, we're just going to generate revenue and go that way?
You got it. So a little bit of both. The MVP was really bootstrapped. It was me and a friend that I paid to sort of just build a really tight product out of the gates. We ran with that for about, I don't know, maybe, I guess it's about 6 months and signed up 30 customers in this beta period. And then I went out to raise a small round. And through that process, my eyes were opened up into a bigger opportunity. And we raised a little bit bigger round and decided, hey, this isn't just a sort of a point solution, but employee emails, leverages itself to an incredible opportunity, right? If you got more than 50 employees and you send email, we can help. And so we went bigger and decided that, hey, this is a business that we can just dominate the space in and really help in a big way. So we raised a little bit more cash and have gone much more quickly than I had originally thought we would.
So what is your typical client like? What size?
Yeah, so we really target organizations with 50 or more employees. We have a lot of people that come to Sigster sort of the inbound way, and right. So those are some small organizations that might just be 5 or 10 employees. And then with any outbound sort of folks that we target, it's typically B2B organizations, 100 plus employees using Gmail or Outlook, invested in something like a marketing automation tool, so they care about marketing. So yeah, we've got customers, 200 customers from somebody that might have 5 or 10 employees, all the way up through companies like Salesforce and Roche, across the board.
So how did you go about getting your first customers? Like, how did all right, we have this great idea. How the hell are we going to convince businesses to go and pay us
money? Yeah, that's an important part. Somebody asked me, I'll just share this quickly. This was the very early days. We didn't really have a product out in the market. So we had no customers, had no investors, and had no employees. And they were like, hey, how are things going? I was like, this is awesome. I'm having a blast. Unfortunately, that's not a very sustainable model, right? So we, the first thing before we built a product is I called every marketer that I knew. I'd been in sort of the marketing tech space for 8 years via iGo Digital, and then ExactTarget bought iGo Digital. And so I called every marketer I knew. I said, hey, we have this problem at ExactTarget. We have this problem at iGo Digital. If I go out and build a solution for it, will you buy? Would you buy it? Do you find it useful? And so I just did that, right? That my background is really sort of go to market, and I called everybody I knew. And then once we had a product, I called them back and said, hey, you said you'd use this. If I built it, well, we built it. Will you use it? Most of them said yes. Okay, I was gonna say, what's like? Yeah, I mean, the beauty of Sigster is, I think marketers struggle, right? Because a lot of, if you're going to roll out a new ESP or you're going to, roll out a new CRM or whatever, it's going to be a long process to see results. And so I think marketers sort of look for quick wins that are also impactful in a meaningful way. And so I think most of them said, hey, it's $5 a user a month, and I can launch it today. Sure, I'll give it a whirl.
And how did you guys,
it's a pretty
how long did it take you till you reached that price point? What was that discussion like, and how hard was that? Are you still trying to figure that out?
Yeah, we are. I think not to say that we've nailed it, but as we rolled out more with the product, we've been able to ask for a higher price point, but it's always been a per seat model. I think that's very natural. Some companies say, hey, I've got this problem across 800 employees. I want to roll all 800 out on Signature today. Others say, boy, I want this really to be in the hands of my customer facing people. So my support team, my sales team, my marketing team, and some will start with a group and sort of have a bottoms up approach.
Okay. I mean, it seems like something that you guys, at least from my experience, it's like something that will change over time anyway. And like the price point is something that you're always trying to figure out.
Yeah, I think you're always trying to be smart and deliver value at the right price, right? Make it easy to buy and ultimately easy to get return out of.
So you've named and you branded it Sigster, but do you have any plans to eventually branch out outside the email signatures and do like a suite of marketing tools, or is it like it's Sigster and that's it?
Yeah, well, there's so much opportunity, right? As I said before, every company with more than 50 employees that sends emails is an opportunity. So there's so much to go out and get. And then once we're in millions of inboxes, then we sort of have this platform, right? Email hasn't changed in a couple of decades outside of the web-based email client, right? So it's a space where we spend so much time and the business has no idea what the heck is happening. The average employee spends 28% of their day sending and reading email, and the business has no idea whether or not that's a productive effort or not. So there, and as users of email, right? What's the worst? You go on vacation, you come back, and your inbox is a total mess. But your email goes down, and you don't know how to work. So it's sort of this love-hate relationship, right?
Vacation you speak of.
Yeah. What is that, right? I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no,
I hear they're awesome.
Are you concerned at all about like with the rise of Slacks and Hip Chats and these type of platforms who are like kind of eliminating the email internally and now project management, like even with clients and customer relationships?
Are you threatened by that? Do you feel like you're getting into a dying industry at all?
Yeah, it's funny because email's been dying in theory for the last 20 years. And so I think email, the application of email as a communication tool between my business and the outside world, I haven't seen anything that's come close to replacing the value of email. Now, when it comes to internal communication and tools like Slack, that allows us to use email in the right way and focus on the most important communications, right, with the outside world. Whereas, whether it's Chatter or some chat tool or Slack or otherwise, I can communicate with my team, manage projects with current customers potentially even. So I at the end of the day, right, who sends the most email? It's companies like Slack, right? When I when I get a notification in Slack, it's typically red because I got an email reminding me to get into Slack and do something. So I think they're awesome tools, but I think there's always going to be a place for email.
Now let's dive into actual email signatures for a minute. Can you talk to me a little bit about like examples of email signatures that you have found to be incredibly effective and some of the practices you put into place, and maybe some case studies or A/B testing, things that just like you guys maybe are just mind-boggling. Like
maybe we should like put a screenshot of yours up there and like have him tear it apart.
Yeah. You want to do it? You want to do it?
Let's do it.
How do we do this? How do we do it? Like,
I would love to see a screenshot link in the link.
Can I do it? That's a good idea. All right, let's do it. Let's tear our email apart. I'm gonna put my personal cell phone number here, so I gotta block out the cell phone.
Yeah, right. Well, while you work on that, email really is composed in our world of two parts. The first is, name, title, company name, company logo, the typical thing that you always think about in an email signature. If you pull up an organization and you look at 20 signatures, it's likely they're all different. But we call that the business card. And so the business card it's all about brand. Make sure it's a consistent brand. It represents you well. If you've got images or links, let's make sure they're relevant and people care about them. So minimalist, but also with balancing that with usefulness. And then below the business card, there's what we call the campaign or the call to action. And the call to action should be relevant based on the sender, right? So if I'm in HR, it should be, hey, check out our careers page, or we've got a referral program. If I'm in sales, it might be, hey, we're going to this event, et cetera.
So are you guys using like variables for those kinds of things?
So we.
Did we lose him again?
I can see you guys. Hear you guys. Yeah.
I'll boot Eddie off until he figures out what's going on there. So all right.
Okay.
So let's pick up his question though. Why I'm uploading this.
Yes, I have no idea what Eddie asked.
So I think he was referring to is like, what have you? So based upon this effectiveness, have you seen like an ROI? Like, have you had businesses turning you guys like you have increased our sales or our revenue or things in that nature based upon what was happening?
I mean, it's a digital channel. We gotta measure it and we gotta show ROI, or we don't stick around, right? And so there's sort of it's a 1-2 sort of approach with us. One, we're gonna stand. It's a brand play. Your signature is often viewed more often than your website, right? If you're a B2B organization, your people send more emails than you get people on your site. So the brand consistency and impressions are important. And then the campaign lends itself really nicely to how many times was it viewed? How many times was it clicked? What was the click-through rate? And ultimately, did that person engage with my company and become a customer? And so, for a couple of quick examples, Sigster clicks for events. So for registration, so with Salesforce, right, they've got a connections conference for the Marketing Cloud. And so prior to the event, they've got something in every person's email signature that says, hey, register for connections. When the event starts, everybody's email signature swaps over to, follow the live stream. And then when the event ends, it's, hey, save this time for next year, or check out our Forrester Wave report. And so every single one of those, right, we can track to an individual click, and ultimately did that person buy and attach dollars.
So walk us through, what are some of the metrics you guys are collecting right now, and why did you pick those metrics?
Yeah, marketing starts with reach and audience. And so the average employee sends 10,000 emails in a year, 10,000, right? 10,000 times we hit send in a year. So if you got 100 employees, you send 1 million messages. And it's a handpicked audience, most important customers, prospects, partners, right? It's handpicked by your team every single day. So that's sort of the top of the funnel. And then click rate is 0.5% on average across those sends. And then depending on what happens from there, conversion could be I watched a video, it could be I downloaded a case study, or it could be I clicked through and bought if I happen to be a site that actually offers, if it's a SaaS product that you can go buy right away, or I scheduled a demo or whatever. So click display Sigster views, right? Clicks, click rate, and then making it really easy to track all that through to your conversion funnel.
Interesting. So name, like, without, I don't know if you can name companies or not, but they have a company turning you, but like, you have directly increased my revenue by X% or by X dollars. Have you started getting those metrics?
Absolutely.
Like, people say, holy shit, what, this is incredible. How have I never done this before?
Yeah, a couple of examples. We were at Roche, a really regulated industry, thousands and thousands of employees, global international company. And we were there yesterday, and it's also the challenge is they're very regulated, right? It's they're in the medical space, right? They're very sensitive to following the right instructions from a marketing perspective. And so, in a few weeks they had a campaign live, and the manager literally said it's the most effective marketing tool we have, because they can't do a lot of really, they're basically using employee email as a marketing channel.
So what are they using for marketing?
Traditional email.
What is their right hook they're trying to get people to do?
So in this case, this is a wild use case, but it's a tissue diagnostics group, and it's a very six-figure machine that essentially hospitals buy, and so they're targeting hospital and healthcare organizations. Something that might be a little bit more tangible, with events. Like, let's just take events. So many, like, Dreamforce is coming up, so SaaS companies, right, drive towards that event. And so a company called Terminus had 1 out of every 8 attendees to their event register via Sigster campaign. Angie's List used Sigster in advance of a big customer event, and drove more registrations via the employee email signature than really any other channel that they measured, right, from a marketing perspective. So it's a conversion and success means different things to every business. Bottom line dollars are always there, and so what were the net new leads that resulted from Sigster is critical as well.
Now, do you offer one of the things I think in places like Squarespace and template editors and MailChimp all face this problem, which is if you give too much creative control, people can create monstrosities, right? Instead of actual effective tools. So how do you guys balance that fine art between we want you to be custom versus we don't want you to make this terrible Mozart painting on as an email signature that everyone's gonna be like, what the hell?
Yes. Well, first of all, if anybody sees any really awesomely terrible email signatures, we're sort of collecting those, and because there's some horrible ideas out there. And so, you know, one of the challenges, right, is just providing some best practices. Like, you can't make an image in your signature, 400 pixels tall and have it just dominate, right? And so we provide some best practices, you know, use as few as images as possible, as few links as possible, just to make sure that you make those count when you do use them. Make sure your campaigns are less than 100 pixels tall. Make sure to include a call to action. All those things are important. And so, giving some candid feedback is important for our customers.
So, all right, here we go. So we're talking.
You want to talk about bad email signatures?
Yeah. Well, before we go to that, let's see how bad mine. I'm gonna put the link on here.
Okay, you got it.
Let's go find out what happens. Yep.
Cool.
I blocked out my phone number. So let's say I'm gonna hit it. It should share somewhere. I think it's loading.
Okay.
It should be loading.
While we wait for it to load, we had somebody sent us an email signature, and on the side they had a picture of a guy that had just killed a deer, and he thought that was really important to show in his email signature. Right.
Oh,
so we've got some. So yeah, the bar's been set pretty high as to what shouldn't be done. I'm sure yours is lovely.
So let's see. I put the link right there in the chat. So if you click it, it'll open up. Oh, we got Eddie. We
got Eddie back. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna pull this up here. Okay, I'm not sure if the So okay, couple of things that are awesome. One, it's not overbearing, right?
Yes.
You don't have crazy images.
I think it's PPS.
PSS. You do have PS and PSS. Let's see. PS, please consider small donation, big sisters, awesome. PSS, you should watch my latest keynote.
Dan, I think your microphone is coming up. You might want to push it in a little bit. Come a little staticky.
Crazy.
Oh,
sound.
My apologies. I was so excited leaning in, looking at the.
There you go.
Let's educate Josh real fast. Josh,
yes.
Postscript is what PS stands for. I think you wanted postscript rather than postscript script.
No, he has PSS here.
Yeah, it should be PPS, right?
Postscript. You're right. I guess it should be. I've never done it.
Eddie, how long have I had that on there for?
I don't see signatures. This is one of the things I want to ask you. When I use Boxy, it like truncates the signatures always, so I never see them.
So, Joshua, if I look at this right at the top, I think you've done great. It says you've got your first name, last name, your title, the name of your company, and what your tagline is. We help entrepreneurs make great apps and ideas become reality, which is super cool. And I like the sort of minimalist execution there. And you've got, should you put your email address and your email signature? That's a longstanding debate.
I'm on the other side of the fence with this. Josh says I say it's stupid.
I think you need it because let's say you have, use the email as a reference point. And let's say it's in legal or contract discussion. It's a reference point. That's why I've always said you should.
Your email address is always included in the recipients.
But with modern day emails, when people screenshot, it only just says your first and last name. It doesn't show the email in it. So it adds that context.
Yeah. I think we see both sides. We don't show our email address in our Sigster email signature, but we have a lot of customers that do. And there's good and bad, I think, to both. For us, we said, hey, in most cases, people are going to know how to get a hold of us. If somebody, and so we don't show it, but we've got plenty of customers that do, and it's an easy thing to click on really quick if you don't, hit reply or whatever. So yeah, we don't show it. I think that's up for debate. You've got your website on there, right? The challenge on the website is it doesn't look like it's clickable. Is it clickable?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's clickable when it sends. It's not clickable on the temp
right.
How come these links are? Because they're HTTPS links.
I guess that is. Let's see if I add www, does it become clickable by default?
You probably need the HTTP.
I add the HTTP. I'm
editing. Yeah, either way, I think that'll work. And then if
because it's clickable once it's said.
Just Command K it and it'll make it a link, right?
There you go.
Not on Boxy, it does.
Where?
Yeah, just, if it's clickable, just, make sure it looks clickable like the other links that you have here that are blue, right?
Yep.
So yeah, and then, the PS and PSS or PPS, whatever this should be, that can get to be a bit much if you're a large organization with 1,000 employees and everybody has free reign to do this. It's your business, right? And every brand sort of balances, personal expression versus brand consistency, right, in a different way. So I think that just is a matter of what's important to you. And as the CEO and founder of the business, maybe that's good. I'd suggest to a large organization that they probably lock that down a little bit more for employees.
But what about graphical elements? There's no graphics whatsoever. And I noticed with Sigster, you guys do use kind of a lot more graphical elements.
We do. Yeah, we do. And considering the recipient is always important, right? So if I'm an organization that emails a lot of Fortune 500 companies using Outlook that's going to block images by default, I like the approach of very few images, and any sort of call to action should be a text sort of call to action as opposed to an image. However, you can also kind of work around that and sort of gracefully include things like alt text and otherwise to encourage people to download images. At Sigster, we have a couple of images. We have our logo that links to our website directly. So we don't include our website link, but we include the logo that does that. And then we use the bottom. We do have two sort of social calls to action, Twitter and LinkedIn, which are very important channels for us that are very small and sort of subtle. And then, of course, just our call to action, the campaign around, right now, I think it's promoting an event we're hitting in Boston here in a couple of weeks. So we have, I think, 4 total images in our signature. But if images are stripped by Outlook, right, iPhones, the iOS Mail, Gmail, those all display images by default. And if images are stripped because we're sending to an Outlook shop that blocks images, the signature still renders well.
Are you considering images now, Josh?
Always consider it. That what he's saying is about being stripped and stuff like that is the headache aspect of it. Now, so I want to actually go back to what I was saying before. A lot of email programs now, like for example, Google Inbox, just hides signatures by default. Yeah. So how are you guys coming?
Yeah,
there's really nothing you can do, right?
Yeah, and for Inbox, our take is that the enterprise is not yet adopting Google Inbox. Most large organizations are sending via Gmail, via Outlook, systems along those lines. And so I think Inbox, the intent is interesting and good. If you go out and search some of the chat rooms, one of the challenges is there's no signature, right? And you sort of hear people complain about that. Like, what do you do? Like, this is the other thing, right? I'm terrible about entering anybody into a CRM. I basically never do it. And so when I want to figure out how to call Josh, I search Gmail for Josh, and then I go to his email signature and I call Josh, right? So it's sort of like, it's sort of my CRM. And I think in large organizations, right, the opportunity for the brand and the company and contact information to be there. I don't believe that the Inbox sort of approach of that far to the minimalistic sort of end will resonate for the enterprise. But if it does, we'll continue to stay on top of it and pivot.
So where do you see emails for enterprise going then, if that's not?
Yeah, so I think in general, I got to imagine something else will sort of compete with Gmail and with Outlook, right? And Exchange and Google Apps, right? But we haven't.
Google's always introducing new competitors within itself. So I don't.
Right. Google will probably kill its own business with something that they create. So yeah, I think more efficient use of email. I think using email for what it's intended for. Here's the problem, right? That another big reason that we were so excited to do Sigster is take internal communications. I want to tell my entire company that, I don't know, it's open enrollment period, or to remember to contribute to your 401k, or I don't know, it's Hawaiian shirt day, right? Whatever it is. In order to get that information out there today, I typically email my entire company. I don't think you should do that, right? And so but what does happen today is you will email people within your company all day long. And so what we're doing with Sigster is swapping out content so that if I only send a message, if I'm, I don't know, at, if I'm at HubSpot.com and I email somebody else at HubSpot.com, then awesome. That message should be, and the call to action should be all about awareness around internal employee communications. If I email external to my organization, it should talk about something else, right? And so I think just as mass marketing email has become more personalized, so if some brand emails 20,000 people, it's not the same message to 20,000 people. There's elements of that message that are personalized based on what I've clicked, what I've bought in the past. And so I believe individual email should start to walk that path of relevancy and drive more awareness without having to hit send again every single time. So I think the elements that have come from sort of mass marketing will trickle down into sort of an email.
Cool.
So two things here. One, how often do you change content in your signatures then? And then two, how do you control the different templates of when sending outbound versus inbound to your team messaging? Do you have it like your email automatically recognizing, or like what is your process?
Yeah, so great question. So at Sigster, I mean, we're changing up our call to action weekly. Here's the thing. The other thing that the world sort of hates is cold calling, right? And so we're very much invested in the idea of inbound. And so we invest in marketing content, right, constantly. And so we have a ton of content. And so we swap out our call to action and our signature routinely. So the routine of how often you update sort of depends on your marketing strategy and the types of content and events or whatever else you might want to promote. But for us, I mean, we're literally changing it out every week, if not more quickly.
So what are you guys using tools internally to track conversion or whatever for these signatures in these different formats?
Yeah, we are. So it's part of Sigster, right? So we track displays, clicks, click rate, and then we append UTM parameters. If you want to track those in Google Analytics to any click-through link, you can also append your own sort of tracking parameters, and we integrate with things like HubSpot, et cetera. So if you're tracking all marketing campaigns in a certain hub, then great. We just want to put the Sigster results alongside everything else, display advertising, whatever else you might be doing.
Nice.
To the second part of your question, Josh, I think I answered the first part. The second part is how the heck do we execute on dynamic content in the email signature? And basically, it's fairly straightforward, right? We upon compose add the to our Sigster link. We add an encoded email address about who that recipient is, so it doesn't show up like the recipient email address doesn't show up in our link. We encode that, and then on our end, upon open by that recipient, we know whether or not you're internal to the organization or external. And you can see where we can go down that path to even get more relevant and personalized beyond internal and external.
So let's say I'm a startup. I'm one of the listeners. I'm going to say I want to start using these email tactics to be effective.
Sure.
My questions for you is, how often should I be changing it? What is going to be my ideal right hook that we should putting in there that you think is going to be relevant for a new company? And what should be included in that signature?
Yeah. So firstly, whether or not you use Sigster or another tool, you should really think about your email signature, right? I mean, it's going out there constantly. And in a small company, it might be manageable if you've got 5 or 10 employees to sort of do that without a system, right? And as you get a little bit bigger and you want to do things like track analytics, do dynamic content, et cetera, like you can always do that. But out of the gates, just to like what really matters. And I think it just depends on the stage of your business. Going back to iGo Digital in my early days, we had a really complex product to sell and to understand. And so our emails, when we were trying to tell people what the heck we did, were just like paragraphs long. It was terrible. Nobody read it, right? and so we put an explainer video, right? I'm not sure people still do a ton of that, right? But an explainer video in the email signature. So it was, hey, we can drive your conversion rates by 10%. Check out a 60-second video on how we did that. It could be. Yeah, the video wouldn't play necessarily in the signature, but it was more of a, hey, it could be a GIF or a GIF or whatever, depending on what you want to call it.
We had this discussion last week.
Yeah, it's always fun, right? It's always.
I don't want to get into it now.
No, let's not do that. But yeah, we the call to action with the play icon, very prominent. Like nobody wants to read email, but people will watch a quick video if you say something interesting in your first sentence or two. So videos are great. Events are incredible, just because the people you want to meet at those events are the people that you email every day. And then I think the questions you asked me, you're like, hey, what's a quick case study you can offer, right? And even beyond that, the things that drive the most engagement is just helpful content. So we're making a shift at Sigster from talking about email signature marketing and employee emails as an owned channel in like every blog post to, hey, we serve digital marketers. Let's talk about some other problems that those folks have as well, whether that's content activation, what events are the best digital marketing events. And so when we start to put those types of calls to action, then people engage, they read it, it's more helpful. And then maybe they like what we're saying and start to uncover more about Sigster there. So helpful content, videos, events, those are the things that I'd recommend as whether you're a startup or a large business to think about.
Now, do you practice good emails too on top of good email signatures? Like email etiquette? I'm serious. Like, do you put a sign in the emails?
I feel like he's obligated to.
I sure hope our team is not sort of abusing the channel.
It's like if your doctor went home and just like treated their body like shit. Like,
yes.
They wouldn't do that. Right.
You see your doctor walking out smoking cigarettes and,
your dentist is over there like eating candy, not even brushing their teeth.
No, but that's probably a great content angle is like just, and we should think about that more. It's digital marketers. It's email as a channel. It's important to our business. How the heck to treat it with respect and not abuse it.
So let's talk about like email etiquette for a second. Like,
sure. Oh boy.
Let's talk about it. Let's we actually had on a couple episodes ago about how this new phenomenon of if you don't respond back to an email within 24 hours, just send you an animated GIF of someone being like patient, like this,
oh gosh,
things of that nature. So let's just talk about like what are some of the practices that you instill yourself that you should be the way people should treat email, and what you think listening should apply to.
Yeah. Okay. So whenever I'm trying to figure out whether or not we have new reps or whatever that will come into Sigster and we'll write an email and we'll say, hey, is this a good email or a bad email? The first thing I'll do is I'll pull it up on my phone, right? And I look at my email on my phone and I want to see what the subject line is. And then you know how it looks at least on my iPhone, you see like the first sentence. So if the subject line isn't impactful and meaningful, if that first sentence doesn't get right to the point, then I just delete the message they just sent, right? And we sort of start over.
Most commercial emails fail at that because their first sentence is like, if you're having trouble viewing this email, blah, blah, blah. And that's the thing that gets into the preview.
Right.
That's all.
Right. It's terrible. It's terrible. And if your first sentence is like, if your first sentence is something along the lines of, hey, you don't know me, but I wanted to drop you a quick line to blah, 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 blah. It's like, I don't know you.
Okay, how about
delete your message?
So an email to a client, typically I'll start with, hey, hope you had a great week or a weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I get into it. But I feel like that's the first sentence that they're seeing.
Yeah, sometimes it is. And so, I think regardless what that first sentence is, brevity is critical. People are busy. They have a lion's share of email. You're interrupting their day to say something. And so we've got to really work on a concise message with a crisp ask or offer some value in that message as well if we're going to interrupt you in your day. And so it starts with the subject line in the first sentence. But as people read messages on mobile devices, they've got to be crisp, concise, well written, right, grammatically correct. All those things are those don't go away. And you don't get an opportunity to write a novel in an email.
Yeah.
So if your email is lengthier than, let's say, 300 characters, and it doesn't, would your rule of thumb be, and this is something I'm curious, this is more worthy of a phone call than an email? Like, how do you balance that line between digital communication and real communication?
Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, you guys know how email is. It's like, get to the point, and then if there's something to discuss, hop on a call, right? And so for us, I go back to the only way to keep emails short is to be respectful, right? Write something there. And if you want to learn more, right, here's a way to go do that. Whether that's read a blog, attend an event, watch a video, whatever it is, right? Schedule some time to talk, right? One of the things some salespeople will put in their email signatures is a link to something like Calendly, or something along those lines, where you can access my calendar and we don't have to go through that 15 email exchange to try to coordinate some time. So depending on your role and what's important to you, saying something concise, adding value, and then having some way to learn more, whether that's, schedule some time or click on some resource or watch some video or whatever.
So I want to shift gears a little bit.
Perfect.
I want to ask you more about running the business. Starting Sigster and trying to get things off the ground. It's always fun. The startup lifestyle is great. It's nerve-wracking and exciting all at once.
It's wild.
What is your typical week like? Like, break it down for me, like what you're spending your time doing, how much time you're spending doing it.
Yeah. Well, I know what it should be, and I'll tell you what it is.
Okay, no, tell me both.
Yeah. So, there's sort of three things that I try to look at this and be a little bit thoughtful about it. And so I try to make sure that the lion's share of my time is spent on one of three things. Team, right? At the end of the day, we got to hire great people. We got to take care of them. We got to treat them well. I got to make sure they're happy. I got to understand what they think and where they think we should go, et cetera. So team is number one. The second is adoption of our product. So making it simple to buy, simple to launch, simple to use, make you want more, right? Because it works so well. And then the last piece is leverage, right? And so there's a few things that add leverage to our business. That's an incredible product and incredible marketing. There's more, but those are the things that I really think about, because I think here's the worst case scenario. I've got 20 reps that make 40 grand a year and they're all mad because they should be making more. Or I have like 5 reps, right, making 200 grand a year because the leads are coming to us because we're offering good content via marketing, and they get into the product and the product is amazing, right? So I want fewer salespeople, better marketing, better product. And that's what I think about when I think about leverage. So team, adoption, and leverage. In reality, it's a little different, but that's what I try to align myself to.
How much of your time personally as the founder is still spent in those discussions about leverage and with the marketing people?
I wish I could say all of it. So before getting into the marketing tech world, I spent 8 years in a recruiting sort of startup, right? And so I hold that, like, who are we going to bring in next? We've only got 22 employees, and the next one is a huge impact on our business. And so I want to talk to everybody and make sure that we retain the people that we have, right? So I do spend a lot of time there. I have an awesome leader on the product side, and I trust him to pull me in whenever needed, but I still stay close to that, and we're talking daily. And on the marketing side, we're really the first person that we hired on the marketing side. The guy's awesome, and he's a wizard at tracking. Right, his best thing is like, Brad, did this work? Most marketers can't quite tell you. Brad will pull up a spreadsheet and he'll tell you, yes, it worked. Here's exactly how it worked. Here's how it compared to everything else that we did. And so we've been able to fill around him with some awesome people too.
How did you recruit him? How did you find him? Was that like an organic process, or was that like someone recommended you?
Ironically, Brad was he was a marketer at a customer, and he was the Sigster admin. And so Brad used the product from the customer standpoint, and then over time there was an opportunity that we had available at Sigster, and he kind of reached out, and things went from there.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really good. Everybody we've hired to date has been a referral.
Hiring is hard. Hiring, especially in the early stages, when you got to get it right. You can't waste time.
It's the only thing that matters, right? As a startup guy, right? You guys probably do the same thing. You tend to want to do it all.
Yeah.
But there's basically, there's a lot of people that are way smarter than me. and so there's a few things that I want to do. I want to be involved on really sort of game-changing deals and sort of partner opportunities. And I want to be involved in hiring. Those are the things that I love. And I think those are the things where I add the most value. And I got to hire people that are amazing engineers and amazing marketers to be way better than I could ever be, and trust them to do the job.
Yeah. And you have to be able to trust them. That's a really important part.
Yeah. So
talk about some of your marketing strategies, like how you've managed to grow from we're a new company no one's heard of to now we're a brand that people are aware of. So talk about some of the strategies you've implemented, how you've been successful there. So we're curious about
T-shirts. It's T-shirts, man. It's all T-shirts.
It's
I'm sort of joking, but so the way that we break it down, Bailey is entirely responsible for identifying the people most influential in our space. right? So whatever business you're in, like who are the people that when they say something, everybody else listens. Whether it could be a company, it could be an individual. And then she's also responsible for events. And the way we decide on whether or not to go to a big marketing event is, are influencers there? And then we wear T-shirts and we go out and we tweet and we do all the other things that you would think about. But events and influencer marketing are critical to us, and we're starting to invest. But at the top of that funnel is we got to measure everything. We went to an event. We did this AdWords campaign. We put this signature campaign out there. What were the results? Did it work? And what do we do more of? And then the third bucket there is really content. And we're really refining our content strategy today to make sure that the mix of content we offer is maybe a little less Sigster focused, a little more digital marketing focused, and a little bit more helpful.
What platforms are you guys focusing on, and what kind of content is it? Is it like blog posts, videos, like live tweeting, or what are you guys doing? Yeah,
to date, we sort of have an activation strategy. Content typically starts on our blog. And then when it lives on our blog, then we have a promotion strategy, right? There's probably some form of that goes to LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook. We use our employees to share content a lot. Clearly the email signature is important for us, right? That goes without saying. But we're starting to get more, less blog focused and offering more video content. We just hired a new content marketer who has a background in sort of radio and advertising as well. So she's going to, in addition to creating content, also look at podcasts and webinars, things that are digestible in a little different way.
They should get you on a podcast soon.
I know. Well, you guys were influencers. So Bailey was like, those guys know everybody. Let's get Dan on there. So she probably regretting it now. You guys might be too.
I don't know. I mean, it's the captain here. So if anyone knows anyone, it's going to be the captain.
What?
Aye. That's great.
So, all right. So
that's great.
Let's go into a more deeper discussion then, which is what's been some of the biggest failures you guys have had that you've had to overcome.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I like this question.
That's good. I think I'll go back. I'm going to go back maybe even before Sigster, and then I'm going to share a Sigster failure too. So when I was transitioning out of technology recruiting and growing that business in the services space, and I wanted to run a software company, and we recruited a ton of software developers and placed them in amazing places. I can't write a lick of code. Like, I'm terrible. That's the last thing you want me to do. And so I didn't know what I didn't know. And I tried to start this first business, and I hired a contractor to build a product. I didn't know how to write requirements. I didn't know how to manage expectations. I didn't know what was important to him. And most importantly, he wasn't an equity partner. He wasn't on salary. He was just sort of this part-time contractor that I expected to build a product that I was going to build the business around. We failed in 3 months, spent 10 grand. So it was really fast. It was a really fast lesson. That was in 2008. And from there, I went back and I found I didn't care what we did. I didn't care what the idea was. I just wanted an awesome developer, and I wanted an awesome sort of project manager, business analyst, client success kind of a guy. And so I found two people that I trusted that I thought were the best in that space. And we went and built a company, and that turned into something really successful. So I think my biggest failure was not recognizing how important engineers are. And if you're a product company, you better have somebody that's more than a contractor, right? Hopefully they're at least an employee, if not an equity partner in the business, at your side, willing to stay up late when a big opportunity comes in, or when something goes wrong, right? Which it's software, right? So that sort of set me up for Sigster, and when we got into Sigster, the first thing that I did was bring on an amazing engineer as our VP of engineering, and he's been fantastic. And so. But the failure, I got that right. I was going to screw something else up, of course. We all do. And so the hardest thing with Sigster, I've said this a couple of times, any business with more than 50 employees that sends email is a potential customer. Well, guess what? That world's really big. And until we had more focus around the right kind of customer and at the end of the day, we can't tell stories that are relevant to that world. So we had to slice and dice it much more granularly and find verticals that we can serve well, and tell the case studies and share those stories. We had to, find people that we knew cared about marketing and add that as a criteria. And we did that through, we use a tool called Datanize to find out whether or not you use a marketing automation program. because that indicates that, hey, you care about marketing, you've got things to share, and you're doing something there. So when we didn't have focus, we screwed up. We wasted a lot of time. We didn't know who we could help the best. And as we get bigger, we can expand that focus. But that was probably the biggest failure out of the gates, and sort of limiting the business in terms of our trajectory was not focusing quite enough.
Talk to me about your daily routine. Like, you wake up to go to bed. What time do you wake up? What time do you go to bed? How are you delegating company, personal life?
Yeah. I'm making fun of myself because last night I went to bed at 8:30 because the prior night I was up till 1 and woke up at 4:30. So I told my team I went to bed at 8:30 after I put my son to bed, and they all made fun of me, which is fine. But typically, I mean, there probably isn't a schedule or routine. Like, it's just different, right? As I've got 3 young kids. We've got Sigster, which is on this growth trajectory that requires a lot of effort and time. And 22 people have taken the time to come join us on this, and so that's it's really important that they get on the right side. So I try to unplug when I get home, maybe around 6 until my kids go to bed around 8. I try to see them in the morning. Right, I'll wake so I'll go to bed at maybe 11 or 12, and then I'll wake up at hopefully 6, right? So I can hop online and do a couple of things before my kids wake up. Then I want to hang out with my kids and turn my phone off and hang out with them. And then when the weekend comes around, hopefully I've put in enough effort during the week that I can hang out with my kids or my wife. I should say my wife too. She's sort of important. But right. So yeah, that's kind of how it is. But one of the reasons going back a little bit, iGo Digital was acquired by ExactTarget, and so I went from 60 employees and being very close to the fire of the business to 2,000 employees. And I, for a year I traveled every week, and that wasn't the right balance. And so, one of our core values at Sigster is balance, right? Like, it's not a 9-to-5 job, but sometimes, like, you've kicked butt, you've taken care of your team, you got to get the heck out of there and go do what's important to you. We all sort of come to work as I believe, a means to an end. Work is not the end in and of itself, right? And so trying to understand what my team cares about, making sure they know that my family is important to me, most important thing to me, right? And sort of, we have a pretty transparent dialogue around that.
Yeah. So on that note, I kind of wanted to ask you, since the team element is so important, what are some tips that you can give us to, like, establishing the kind of culture that you guys have at Sigster? Like, what are you guys doing to bring that culture?
There's a lot that goes into it. And culture is one of those things that, nothing creates culture like winning. I'm going to steal that from a couple of other folks that I've heard it from. And so, coming in and kicking butt, right, and taking care of our customers and adding new customers and launching amazing product, like, that creates excitement. And then we can go out and have some drinks and celebrate and enjoy ourselves. So I think that's foundational. But one of the things that in my first job, my manager asked me to do, he said, "Hey, we write your goals and give me your goals." And at the time I was 22, and that seemed a little fluffy. And so I ignored him a couple of times. And then finally he asked me like a third time. And so, it's just a simple 1-page, not a lot of fluff, 1 year and 3 year personal and professional goals. I handed that to him. But the cool part was he handed his to me. Right. And so we sat down, and I knew why he was coming to work. He knew why I was coming to work. And so we've done that with every employee at Sigster. They see my goals. They share theirs with me or their hiring manager, whatever it might be. And then at the end of the day, like, hey, I know you want to go live in Paris, France for a year or two. Or I know that you want to, right, get an RV and take a West Coast trip and hit all the national parks with your kids. Yeah, these are a couple of specific ones. So it's like, when we talk, it's like, hey man, how the hell are we going to get you in that RV out at, Yellowstone or whatever?
That's great.
and so it just, we're all people, right? And the business is here to help serve us. We got to take care of each other first. But at the end of the day, we're people, and we come to work with an end in mind.
It's fantastic.
So what do you want your legacy to be?
at first and foremost, I got to provide for my family, take care of my family, and do that in a way that's not like an absentee provider, right? So that's the most important thing to me from a business perspective. It sort of comes down to maybe two things. I like looking back and seeing that we created something that created a lot of not only jobs, but helped people sort of, tackle those goals that they had, right? And so when I go back and I see somebody that we hired, like here's a quick example from iGo Digital. We had like 3 24-year-old people selling 7-figure deals into companies like Procter & Gamble and Best Buy and other companies. So we get acquired by ExactTarget. And I'm like, hey, they're like, who's your enterprise guys? And I was like, those are my enterprise guys. And they're like, they're 24. And I was like, yes. And that's what I love about startups, right? Is you get to do, pardon my language, but you can do shit that's like way beyond your pay grade at a very young age. And the people that do that are 24 and 25, and they're just, in their careers at such a more profound level than the other folks. So ultimately, they got their enterprise job at that business, but it didn't start that way. It had to take a little bit of time to sort of get them into that role. So that's the legacy, right? You go around, you see people that you had some fun with, you worked hard, you came out the other side, you accomplished some awesome things, and you still like each other. That damn successful.
Yeah. Cool. I mean,
I was going to ask, where's Sigster going? Like, where's your grand vision of where to?
Can you drop any secrets? Any upcoming products?
Yeah. Yes. You never know, right? Yeah. I think when people ask where we're going, it's really easy to start talking about numbers. We've when I shared that story about going out and raising the first round of capital, again, we were going to just raise a little bit of money and hit a couple milestones and sort of slow grow Sigster. And Scott Dorsey, who was founder, CEO of ExactTarget, sold to Salesforce, and Eric Tobias, Mike Fitzgerald, and Christian Anderson are guys in Indianapolis that had very successful outcomes, and we're putting that back into a venture studio, and it was launching. They were the same guys that already called to ask to invest in Sigster, and they called me back and said, guys, Dan, I think this is a hell of a lot bigger than you're thinking today. And I was like, well, I see the vision to what I'm driving towards. The reason I haven't thought a little bit bigger is because I haven't done that before. And they had, right, it very, very successfully. And they're like, okay, we're going to help you, right? We're going to dig in. You're going to be in the office space with us. And who the hell knows email better than Scott Dorsey, right? And so it's like he built an email business and sold it for a couple $2 billion. So that's great. And so the numbers aren't important, but the predictable outcome with those guys at our side, and we're going 1 million miles an hour, and so these slight adjustments in our trajectory ultimately change the course of the business and how successful we are. So we're not building and I'm going to use numbers again. That's not the important part. The important part is creating a company where people advance their own goals, right? But we're not building a $5 or $10 or $20 million business. We're going to have hundreds of employees and billions in revenue, and we're going to do that on the backs of employee email, and staying really focused in the near term on executing our strategy today to create a platform after we're in millions of inboxes where we have a ton of opportunities in productivity and data and content. So it's it's not a 1 or 2 year quick exit type thing. It's fast. It's wild. We've got awesome people and good people leading us.
That's awesome. I'm really excited for you guys.
Yeah. It's fun.
If you could go back to the very, very, very beginning and tell yourself one thing of advice, what would it be?
And probably enjoy it, because if I look back at what we did at iGo Digital, you know how it is, right? The ride. I'm going to see if I can get my right. If you're at point A going to point B, and the line looks like this, in a big company, it might actually look like this, right? Where it's a very flat curve. In a startup world, right, it is up and down and crazy and wild. And then you do something amazing, and it's like, hey, yes, you high five, you go chug a beer with your buddies and that you work with, and then you're on to the next milestone. And so, one of the things that we did after So between ExactTarget and Sigster, I was going so fast. I was traveling every week. I didn't have enough time to enjoy the journey of IGO Digital. I didn't have, I wasn't disciplined enough to, really enjoy and understand what I was learning at ExactTarget and the connections that I was making. And so I didn't know what to do. I wasn't proactive enough to be able to say, hey, I'm going to do this next. So my wife and I basically talked very late night on St. Patrick's Day. We might've been influenced a little bit. And I basically said, hey, I'm going to give ExactTarget 3 months notice. It's been an incredible journey, but I can't continue to do this. And I don't know what I'm going to do. So we just decided to build a log cabin in Bloomington, Indiana, which is where we both went to college, take our family there. It had electricity and everything. I'm not like Paul Bunyan.
Is that by the mall?
In Bloomington? Oh,
wait, where's the Mall of America?
That's Bloomington, Minnesota.
That's Minnesota.
I'm sorry.
It was next to a bunch of trees, basically, is what it was next to.
Okay.
And my only goal in that time period was to hang out with my family and meet smart people and be very reflective and thoughtful about what the heck I should do next. And so we lived there. It was 15 minutes from Indiana University and civilization, but it felt like you were in the middle of nowhere. And that was a really important time, and that's really where Sigster launched. So just having that bit of time to be reflective and thoughtful, and to answer your question, I sort of enjoyed the journey after the fact, and I knew this next time around that I wanted to work my butt off, create something awesome, but pause from time to time and remind myself that, hey man, this is actually really fun. It's really fun work.
So why Indianapolis? Why do you guys?
I don't know if we're here as a result of me living here. Sigster wouldn't exist without Indianapolis, right? If you look back at Indianapolis, so I mentioned the Scott Dorsey thread. Eric Tobias was the founder and president of IGO Digital. He's another one of those 4 partners. Christian had invested in my business in 2008, and Mike Fitzgerald had actually acquired IGO Digital for ExactTarget. Those are the 4 partners at High Alpha. They all have incredible marketing tech and branding experience. When we went to do our seed round, the guy that led that was a guy named Bill Godfrey. And Bill, prior to ExactTarget, was this a wildly successful, sort of the first marketing automation platform, which sold to Teradata. It was called a Primo. And so now we've got Scott Dorsey and Bill Godfrey here. And the beauty of Indianapolis is it's small enough that people care, right? The big companies here will give a startup an opportunity. And then you've got that big company logo to go find the next business. If I was somewhere like Silicon Valley, right, boy, I bet it's really difficult to get the ear as a startup of a big business because there's 1,000 other people trying to do the same thing. And so Indianapolis has this, it has this incredible, it's seen a few really successful exits in the marketing tech space. The companies that gave them a shot in the early days liked that journey. They want to do it again. And we've got leaders here to sort of help shape it. So although I'm from Indianapolis, I believe it's the best place to start a marketing tech business. The support here is incredible.
Wow.
Awesome, man. So how can people learn more about Sigster, and how can they reach you? And, how can podcasting?
Yeah. Where's all this awesome content coming from? Is the Sigster blog?
Yeah. So Sigster blog is probably the lion's share of our content, but just Sigster's SIGSTR.com. And there's a million ways to reach out to us and connect with us there and engage with us. Whether you're just curious, you have an idea, if you're an awesome engineer, if you want to come work here, all those things are important. So I'm fascinated by anybody sort of on this startup journey. LinkedIn has been my number one tool throughout my career for hiring, finding employees, finding investors. So I'm always eager to connect with other people, and we've had so much help along the way to get to where we are. There's a ton that I can learn, and I'm always happy to engage with other people wherever that might be. So, thanks for this opportunity. You guys are kicking butt, and I'm humbled to be on here.
Yeah, thank you for being on, man. You guys, everyone, this is Dan, Sigster app. Go sign up. Let them know that Chop Dog, the podcast, sent you.
Yes,
and let us know what your conversion rate is after you start using some awesome email signatures. Dan, Thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure having you. We're definitely going to have you again. And you've been listening to episode 20 of the podcast. Yes, this is episode 20. I'm just going to keep repeating it, Eddie, until it's drilled in my head so I don't forget.
And then you're going to say it for 21. You're going to be like, this is
this is episode 21. So you've been in episode 20. And just a reminder, if you need a team to help build your mobile app, your web app, your wearable app, and be a strategic partner with you for the long haul, just like what Dan was saying, reach out to us at chopdog.com or go to hire.chopdog.com. 3 quotes, free proposals. Thank you, everyone. And Dan, thank you again, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Honored to be here. Good luck.
Thanks.